Imagine a highly successful businessman for a second, like someone who routinely negotiates international commercial real estate deals.
Okay, so we're talking big money here.
Oh, massive. We are talking full buildings, five-star hotels, personal profit margins sitting comfortably in the 10 to $40 million range.
Wow.
Yeah, and imagine this person operating in Dubai, literally being handed millions of dollars in physical cash.
Just cash in a briefcase type of thing?
Exactly. Now imagine this same guy charges up to $2 million for his private services, and in a single year, he receives 25 separate marriage proposals.
Wait, 25? In 1 year?
In 1 year. I mean, it sounds like the ultimate hyper-aggressive Wall Street archetype, right?
Yeah.
But here is the mind-boggling hook for you. This individual is completely blind.
Oh, wow. I did not see that coming.
Right. And he credits his entire operating system, all of the success, to 50 years of intense yoga and meditation practice. So welcome to your custom deep dive.
I love this. It
Yeah.
just completely shatters the paradigm you'd expect for that level of, commercial dominance.
For sure.
When we look at the source material for this deep dive, the insights of Osman, who refers to himself as the Blind Muslim Yogi, it's almost like a paradox.
Hmm.
We're looking at a master-level energy healer and advanced yoga teacher.
Right.
But he is totally defying that ascetic, detached archetype.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is not to sit here and teach you how to do a downward dog or talk about the physical flexibility of yoga poses.
Thank goodness, because I am not flexible.
Same here. We are looking at Osman's life to extract the subtle, highly practical, and honestly incredible real-world advantages of medium to long-term spiritual practice.
And we should clarify, when the source material says medium to long term, it means a minimum of 5 years, really stretching into decades.
Right, 50 years in his case. I mean, we usually picture a yogi as a quiet monk sitting on a mountain, right?
Yeah.
Detached from all worldly possessions, maybe whispering in a very soft voice.
Yeah, the stereotypical Zen master.
Exactly, but here we have a highly assertive, high-earning individual. He admits to speaking loudly, he deals in massive wealth, and he holds his own in these cutthroat environments.
It definitely sets the stage for a really grounded exploration, because we want to see how spiritual discipline actually fuels real-world power.
Yes. So to understand how he achieves those external results, we first have to look at his internal baseline.
Which is fascinating because the source material offers a total redefinition of what it actually means to be Zen, or balanced.
How so?
Well, we're talking about a fundamental rewiring of the human nervous system over a 50-year period. Osman claims that he spends 99% of his waking life in what he calls an alpha state of mind.
99%. That is wild.
Yeah, he says he only ever slips into a beta state if someone deliberately tries to take advantage of his visual handicap.
I mean, that's fair, but I want to pause on those terms for a second. It is very easy to hear alpha state and beta state and just, write them off as mystical guru talk for calm and frantic.
Right, it sounds a bit new agey if you don't know the science.
Exactly. So what is actually happening in the brain when he talks about living in an alpha state?
Well, it is entirely grounded in neuroscience. When he says beta state, he is referring to beta brain waves. These are high-frequency waves associated with normal waking consciousness.
Okay.
But more importantly, they're associated with alertness, logic, and stress.
Mm.
When you are in a beta state, your sympathetic nervous system is highly active.
So that is your fight or flight mechanism.
Precisely. It is the frequency of anxiety, of calculating threats, of constantly scanning the room, and most modern professionals live their entire lives stuck in a high beta state.
Which has to burn a massive amount of physiological energy, right? It's like that feeling of having way too many tabs open in your brain.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You are alert, but you are exhausted by the alertness.
Right. So what about the alpha state?
Alpha waves are slower frequency brain waves. They bridge the gap between conscious thinking and the subconscious mind. When you produce alpha waves, you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest state.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is the critical distinction Osman makes. Being in an alpha state does not mean you are asleep or just entirely disengaged.
Right. He's closing $40 million deals, so he can't be asleep.
Right. It signifies a state of relaxed, effortless focus. Elite athletes sometimes call it the zone or the flow state.
Oh, I see.
And Osman is claiming that through 50 years of practice, he has trained his nervous system to default to this highly efficient, low-friction alpha state permanently.
I used to think of this kind of calmness like like a high-performance sports car engine, Like, it's running at a very low RPM, so it has massive roaring power available, but it never overheats.
That's a good way to look at it.
But hearing you explain the nervous system aspect, I realize a better analogy is maybe the car's suspension system.
Oh, I like that. How do you mean?
Well, if you were driving a cheap car with bad suspension over a really pothole-filled road, every single bump violently jolts the cabin,
Oh,
right?
for sure. You
Yeah.
feel everything.
That is living in a beta state. Every delayed flight, every rude email, every market fluctuation just shakes your entire frame.
And the potholes are the external stressors, which honestly never actually go away.
Right. The road doesn't change. But 50 years of meditation is like installing an elite $1 million suspension system.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, the massive potholes are still there. The commercial real estate market still crashes. But the internal cabin, like, his mind absorbs the shock so perfectly that the driver barely feels a vibration.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. True emotional stability isn't passivity. It's an even-leveled mind that allows for clear, fearless execution in high-stakes environments.
And we see this play out in the source material with some astonishing numbers. He operates in the international commercial real estate market, right? Where the stakes are just astronomically high.
Oh yeah, a misplaced word could cost you millions.
Exactly. And he mentions a specific scenario just before the COVID pandemic hit. He was negotiating the sale of a 5-star hotel.
Right, I remember reading this.
He calculated that his personal profit on that single transaction would be somewhere between 35 and 40 million US dollars.
I can't even fathom the amount of stress involved in a negotiation like that.
Right. Now, consider what happens when the pandemic hits. The deal stalls out. A normal person operating in a beta state with a bad internal suspension would just completely panic.
Their sympathetic nervous system would just flood their body with cortisol.
Exactly. But Osman notes that even in the absolute worst of crises, he remains equal-minded. He doesn't plunge into depression when the $40 million is off the table.
Just as he doesn't jump up and down with frantic excitement when the money is handed to him.
Because if you are sweating the outcome, if you are terrified of losing the deal, the other side smells that desperation immediately.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
The people sitting across the table handing over millions of dollars in physical cash are going to read your micro-expressions. They're going to hear the slight tremor in your voice.
Yeah, the alpha state protects him.
And Osman makes a point to say his alpha state does not make him timid. He says, I speak fearlessly. I speak loud.
Because he isn't wasting cognitive resources managing his anxiety.
Exactly.
Okay, so the suspension protects him. It keeps his internal cabin from shaking apart during a $40 million crisis. But the source material claims that this internal state doesn't just stay internal.
Right, it actually begins to leak out.
Yeah, it physically alters the people around him. And I have to ask, how does a solo meditation practice change someone else's biology?
This is where we look at the energetic ripple effect. Osman shares a recurring phenomenon. When people who are very stressed or agitated come to speak to him or even just call him on the phone, his energy influences them so deeply that they start feeling calm.
And it gets more extreme than just feeling calm. Right?
Yeah, it's a very common occurrence. People frequently fall asleep mid-conversation while he is talking to them.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I have to stop you there. Putting someone to sleep over a phone line just by talking to them sounds like, I don't know, a parlor trick or hypnosis.
I know it sounds totally made up.
Right. I can understand how being in the same room with a calm person might make you feel relaxed. But how is that physically possible if they are sitting halfway across the world?
It sounds like magic until you look at the biology of how humans communicate. You were touching on a concept called physiological co-regulation.
Physiological co-regulation, okay?
We tend to view a phone call purely through an intellectual lens. Like it's just an exchange of data where one person transmits words and the other receives them.
But you're saying communication is a literal transfer of a physiological state.
Exactly. It is primarily a biological event. Even over a phone line, your ear is picking up microfluctuations in the speaker's vocal cords. It picks up their pacing, their breath rate, the resonance of their voice.
Oh, wow. So it's the invisible data traveling with the words?
Yes. When Osman is in that deep, unshakable alpha state, his breathing is extraordinarily slow and rhythmic. His vocal cords are completely free of the tension that accompanies beta state anxiety.
So the person on the other end hears that.
And their mirror neurons, the cells in the brain that allow us to empathize and mimic, begin to fire. Hearing that deeply regulated voice stimulates the listener's vagus nerve.
Which acts as the brake pedal for their own nervous system, right?
Exactly. It forces them out of fight or flight and pulls them into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. Osman notes he used to think these people were just being incredibly rude by passing out on the phone.
I mean, I would think that too.
Right. But then he realized his energy was calming their nervous system down so much that they were experiencing true peace for the first time in perhaps months. Their bodies simply surrendered and went to sleep.
That reframes everything about human interaction. Decades of spiritual discipline don't just upgrade your mind, they turn you into a stabilizing force for your entire social circle.
Which is why Osman emphasizes that energy transcends space and time. He says that when you are speaking to someone on the phone in another country, it feels to them as if they are sitting right in front of you.
That is a staggering responsibility if you think about it.
Oh, totally.
It means if I call a client while I'm internally frantic, even if I use all the right professional buzzwords, my biology is transmitting panic to them.
Right, your underlying frequency is beta.
But if I call from an alpha state, I am acting as a biological anchor. I'm doing the heavy lifting of regulating their nervous system for them.
And think about the profound social implications of being that biological anchor. If your presence naturally lowers the heart rate of everyone you interact with, people will instinctively want to be around you.
They wouldn't even know why.
Exactly. They won't necessarily know why. They will just know that when they are near you, the world feels less threatening.
Which logically brings us to the most fascinating paradox in all of his source material. It is this paradox of extreme self-sufficiency leading to massive, unintentional magnetism.
Yes. The marriage proposals.
The 25 marriage proposals in a single year. I mean, to really grasp how crazy this is, we have to look at how he was living at the time.
Right, because he was not out on the dating scene.
Not at all. Osman describes himself as having complete immunity to loneliness and depression. He details a period in his life where he embraced intense self-sufficiency.
He spent years living completely alone, running an online marketing business, right?
Yes, he was incredibly isolated by choice. And when he says living alone, he means extreme solitude. He would stay indoors for months on end.
Months.
Months. He bought all his groceries in bulk so he wouldn't have to leave the house. He prepared all his own food. He didn't have pets.
That is intense.
It is. But he says he enjoyed relationships if they happened. He just absolutely didn't need them. He was perfectly comfortable in his own skin, staring at a computer screen back when he had his eyesight, totally self-contained.
He required absolutely nothing from the outside world to regulate his emotions.
Right. And the ultimate result of needing no one. A flood of 25 separate marriage proposals in a 12-month period.
This raises an important question about how modern society typically approaches connection. If you look at the underlying psychology of most relationships today, people are generally operating from a place of deficit.
Like they're looking for someone to fix them.
Exactly. They are in that frantic beta state, and they are seeking a partner to fill a void. They want someone to cure their loneliness, to provide validation, or, quite literally, to regulate their chaotic nervous system for them.
It's a dynamic of grasping. It's like treating another person like a life raft. You know, you're drowning in your own anxiety, so you grab onto someone else and hope they can keep you afloat.
Which is exhausting for the person acting as the life raft.
Mm-hmm.
But Osman is demonstrating the exact opposite. Because of his decades of practice, he operates from a place of complete energetic fullness.
Right.
He doesn't need anyone to act as a mirror for his self-worth. And paradoxically, that makes him the safest, most attractive person in the room.
Now, he makes sure to clarify that he isn't trying to be a playboy. He notes very pragmatically that getting into 25 relationships in a year isn't even physically possible.
Yeah, that would be a logistical nightmare.
Right. But the core lesson here is that balanced energy is intoxicating. We gravitate toward whoever makes us feel safe.
It goes back to the nervous system again. When you interact with someone who isn't subtly pulling energy from you, someone who isn't demanding that you fix their emotional state, it is a tremendous relief.
The sanctuary.
Yes. People were proposing marriage to him not necessarily because of traditional metrics like looks, but because his baseline alpha state offered them a permanent refuge from their own beta state chaos.
So what does this all mean? For you listening, I think the distillation of this is a complete inversion of how we are taught to pursue success. Well, we are sold this idea that to have better relationships, to network effectively, or to close massive business deals, we need to learn specific tactics. We need to memorize negotiation scripts, or dress a certain way, or project fake confidence.
which are all just external band-aids applied to an internal problem.
Exactly. Osman's life suggests that the ultimate life hack for external success is actually retreating inward. It might simply be working on your own baseline energy and solitude until you are entirely happy alone.
Yes, until you have upgraded your internal suspension system so thoroughly that you can sit in a room for a month, buy your groceries in bulk, and feel absolutely zero loneliness.
The realization here is that the internal work is the external work. When Osman talks about his ability to put people at ease, he explicitly states that yoga and meditation are designed to balance your energies directly.
It isn't a mystical byproduct. It is the core biological function of the practice. By consistently applying this over decades, you aren't just gaining the ability to touch your toes.
Right.
You are fundamentally altering the biological frequency you broadcast to the world, which completely changes how the world responds to you.
It really is a paradigm shift. I mean, we started this deep dive looking at a blind businessman closing $40 million real estate deals, collecting millions in cash in Dubai, and fielding dozens of marriage proposals.
That sounds like a movie.
It does. And the secret to all of that external dominance wasn't a ruthless, high-stress hustle mentality. It was 50 years of sitting quietly, slowing down the brainwaves, and balancing the internal scales.
So to bring it all together for you listening, Osman's journey proves that a 50-year yoga practice isn't just about physical flexibility. It is a profound rewiring of the nervous system.
It shifts you into a perpetual alpha state.
Exactly. An alpha state that can handle $40 million deals, shield you from loneliness, and turn your mere presence into a healing magnetic force for everyone you interact with.
It literally changes the physical state of the room. It lowers the heart rates of agitated clients over a phone line, which leaves us with a really fascinating thought for you to walk away with.
Oh, let's hear it.
Think about the daily friction you experience. You know, the arguments with your coworkers, the tension with your partner, the stress of dealing with difficult clients. If simply hearing the voice of a truly balanced person can physically put an agitated person into a peaceful sleep, how much of our daily conflict isn't actually about what we are saying to people, but rather the frantic, sputtering beta energy we are broadcasting while we say it?
That is a powerful question.
Imagine the power of walking into your next negotiation or your next difficult conversation, not armed with a better argument, but with the quiet, unshakable power of a perfectly tuned internal engine.